Across America, data center developers are used to getting what they want. But right now, from Minnesota to Maryland, from Oregon to Oklahoma, something is different, and it's happening fast. On Monday night, the City Council of Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota, was supposed to make a decision about data centers. Instead, they made headlines by refusing to make one at all. The council voted to abruptly adjourn before a scheduled vote on a data center moratorium, triggering boos and shouting from more than 80 residents who had packed City Hall. Adding insult to injury, they rescheduled the hearing to Friday morning at 8 a.m., a time many working families said was deliberately designed to exclude them. Council member Sue Gliva said the council had received confidential new information at 4 p.m. that afternoon, but refused to explain what it was. The developer behind a proposed 54,000 square foot facility has threatened legal action if the city decides the matter on anything other than strict zoning law. The residents who showed up Monday are not waiting quietly. That fight for democratic control over data center development reached a new peak in Frederick County, Maryland on Tuesday. A citizen group called the Frederick County Data Center Referendum Committee filed its opening appeal brief with the Maryland Supreme Court, representing more than 21,000 residents who signed a petition to put a massive 2,600-acre data center zone on the November ballot. A lower court judge had blocked the referendum last week, ruling in favor of data center companies that own property on the proposed campus north of Adamstown. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case on an accelerated schedule, with oral arguments set for June 30th, just one day before ballot language is due to the state. At stake is whether 21,000 citizens can exercise direct democratic control over the future of their county. The companies involved have not commented publicly since the appeal was filed. That opposition is now making its way into courtrooms in other states too. In Oregon, a coalition including 1,000 Friends of Oregon, Tax Fairness Oregon, the Tualatin Riverkeepers, and a sitting Hillsborough City Councilor filed suit Monday against the city of Hillsborough and Washington County over property tax breaks handed to 17 data centers. The city had rushed a flood of enterprise zone approvals this spring, deliberately beating a state moratorium on new data center tax breaks that took effect June 6. Some tech companies filed stacked 5-year applications in successive intervals, potentially locking in reduced tax bills for decades. The lawsuit, filed in Washington County Circuit Court, alleges the approvals let data centers sidestep public land use processes, limit public participation, and avoid paying their fair share of local taxes. For the Oregon Education Association, also a named plaintiff, this is ultimately a question of what those uncollected taxes could have funded in public schools. And the reason this legal backlash keeps gaining momentum comes down to one thing: your electricity bill. A new analysis published Monday by Utility Dive reveals that 46 planned data centers across the United States, representing a combined 56 gigawatts of power capacity, plan to skip the public grid entirely, building private natural gas power plants and contracting directly with fuel suppliers. That sidesteps state utility regulators completely, meaning no oversight, no contribution to shared grid upgrades, and no accountability for costs that flow to every other ratepayer. McKinsey projects that 25 to 33% of all new data center demand through 2030 will be met off-grid. American residential electricity prices rose 11.5% in 2025 alone. Analysts now forecast they will climb an additional 40% by 2030. The industry's solution to the power problem is making the power problem everyone else's problem. The pressure on the grid is only half the story. Water tells the other half. A new analysis by Tom's Hardware and The Guardian finds that roughly 2/3 of the 809 data centers currently planned across the United States are being sited in areas that have experienced drought conditions over the past year. These facilities can each consume up to 5 million gallons of water per day, the equivalent of 50,000 people's daily water usage. In 2025 alone, AI data centers consumed 264 billion gallons of water nationally, about 550 million gallons every single day. By 2028, total U.S. data center water demand is projected to reach 73 billion gallons per year, more than quadruple the 17 billion gallons used in 2023. Communities across the drought-stricken West and South are now asking a simple question. Who gave the industry permission to use water no one can afford to spare? State legislators are taking notice. And in Florida, they are already acting. On May 7, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed Senate Bill 484 into law. Set to take effect July 1, the legislation is one of the most sweeping data center consumer protection laws in the country. It bars Florida utilities from passing data center infrastructure costs onto residential and small business ratepayers. Any data center drawing 50 megawatts or more must now pay its full cost of service, including all grid upgrades and interconnection work needed to bring that power online. The bill also tightens aquifer permitting for data center cooling water and explicitly preserves local government's authority to deny data center permits. Texas Governor Abbott has directed the state's Public Utility Commission to impose similar cost-shifting rules, and at least 12 other states are pursuing parallel legislation. The era of data centers as special guests on the public utility system appears to be ending. Yet despite that regulatory wave, construction is pressing forward and moving into places no one expected. In downtown Kansas City, a Miami-based developer called Revitalization Unlimited filed plans this week for a 20-story, 384-foot data center tower in the urban core, right at 934 Central Street. The building was designed by the prestigious architecture firm Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, the same firm behind the Sears Tower and One World Trade Center. Of the 20 floors, 18 would be dedicated to IT racks, natural gas fuel cells, and electrical infrastructure. A 4,100 square foot coffee shop with outdoor seating is planned for the ground floor, giving the structure an unusually human face. The project goes to city staff review on June 30, then a full hearing before the City Plan Commission on August 5. It is a striking departure from the remote farmland that has defined the data center boom, and a sign that the industry is pushing into the heart of American cities. And the financial commitment behind that construction is staggering, even when it stalls. In Pittsburgh County, Oklahoma, Australia-based IREN brought plans for a 2,000-acre hyperscale AI campus along South Kiowa Lake Road, a project they call Project Emerald. The company promised county commissioners $24 million per year in local taxes and contributions, 100 permanent jobs, and 1,000 construction jobs at peak activity. Monday's public hearing drew roughly 200 residents, with a clear majority in opposition. One resident called the proposal, quote, a tax avoidance structure written by the developer's attorneys, unquote. Commissioners tabled both proposed tax incentive districts and sent the project back to a review committee for new cost estimates. IREN submitted a statement in response but offered no new timeline. Project Emerald remains on hold, a 2,000-acre gamble in limbo, with the community's verdict already clear. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment. It helps us cover more of these stories.